Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the International Visiting Lecture today with Dr. Hafizah Abdul Rahim as a senior lecturer from University Malaysia Perlis. And for today's session, it's being live streamed on the Universitas STEKOM YouTube channel. And we will start class presentation delivered by Dr. Hafizah. The time is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Novita. Okay, allow me to share the screen again. Okay, can you see the slide?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, good afternoon to everyone, participants for today's sessions. Okay, I would like to thanks to Miss Novita for the chair, Miss MC for today's sessions. Okay, so today I'm going to give to share what we call that topic under business economics that we will look at the specific focus on tariff. And the title for today's lectures is on how the US tariff affect ASEAN and why trade matters for peace and prosperity. Okay, so basically for today's presentations, I will cover this is the outline of my presentation, that we will start with the very brief of what it means by tariff, and I hope that the students or the researcher or lecturers that join from today's sessions, okay, with the background of economics or without background of economics. So we will start with the basic understanding what it means by tariff and why they matters. And then we will look at a bit on US ASEAN at a glance. Okay, so we want to see what are the what we call the how important the United States and ASEAN countries. Okay, and then we will take a look at the chronology of US ASEAN collaborations before we move to the major trade flow between ASEAN countries as well as the United States. Okay, and focus for today's presentation or lectures that I will bring two situations where, because we have to know that the presidential of President Trump, he has experience on what we call admins for the two periods of presidential, and then we will see 2018 and 2021 as well as the current trade regime by President Trump. And then we will look at the impact on ASEAN economies and sectors. And then we will look at what are the negotiation and adjustment, what we call the scope on ASEAN countries and the United States. Okay. And then we will see what kind of the policy actions taken by ASEAN. Okay, and then the prospect, future tariff setting and scenario, okay, until the current situation. And of course, we will look at the trade diplomacy and peace and some of the key takeaways that we're going to understand. And then after that, we will have recommendation and conclusion. Okay, so as I told just now, with background of economics or without economics, I will start with the what we call very brief understanding of what it means by tariff. Okay, basically tariff, we can say that very simple understanding, tariff are custom duties on import. Okay, so normally any custom or any tax that be imposed on imports good, whether service or service of goods. Okay, so this is very important for every country. It's not only in ASEAN countries, but all countries all over the world. They might have the policy. Okay, every country they will have policy because they want to make sure that they can protect the domestic product. Okay, so they raise domestic price of affected good, and then protecting producer, produce the normally no domestic producer, and then rising revenue. And for this topic, particularly on tariff, I brief a very brief theory, which is small country theory, as well as the large country theory. Okay, so we will try to understand, because normally when we look at the when we look at the theory, for example, for the small country case of small country theory, normally they are the small country, because they are always being a price takers. Okay, and then it's the price taker cannot influence, okay, world price. Okay, so that's why it's reflect to the reduced national welfare. And the tariff creates, okay, by imposing or having tariff for any country, okay, it creates the debt loss, which is the consumption construction and producer distortion. So indirectly, okay, under this theory, it will bring a small welfare fall. And whereby for this large country tariff, okay, so there can be a terms of trade gain if tariff is big enough to push down foreign export price. Yet beyond a point, okay, the debt weight loss, okay, dominate, hence the optimal tariff notion, and we can see that importantly there will be the retaliation risk. Okay, so this is the two common theories under international economics. Okay, and also there are several theories bring by Adam Smith, the classical theories, and then the neoclassical theory, or the modern mercantilist theory. That actually there are a lot of theories reflect the what we call this topic. But I just give a very brief of understanding on the theories reflect to the tariff. And then why we have to know, why we have to understand this topic or related to tariff, because at the same time we have to know that normally tariff will shift or reshape the supply chains. Okay, it's bring moving job, okay, and then alter at least margin, and then they also ripple into diplomacy, because it's involved one country to another. Because we have to know, in the real situation, the global economic revolve right now, we have to know that every country need to depend from another to another country, because some country they have this kind of product goods, okay, but they have excessive of the goods, but some portion can be distributed local in their country, but the remaining or the excessive resources that they have, the goods that they have, they can gain what we call gain money with the export to the rest of the world, to other country that need this kind of product. For example, Malaysia, we have palm oil. Okay, so Malaysia have palm oil and then export to the rest of the world. And I believe also Indonesia has palm oil and then export to the rest of the world. So we know that this concept of very basic, that the product we have our own country, so we want to sell. In different words, is selling to other country is export to other country. But we know that when we are selling or exporting our product to other country, so the country that buying our product is called import. So the import that they buy from our country, so they have certain regulation that they also want to protect their product, the domestic product. So this is, we can see it, because we have to know, in a real situation there will not be, there is no a perfect trade, I mean balance between export and import. And some of the country they do have this kind of product, and some of country they have this kind of product. So how they can have, they have to make trading, which is import and export from one to another. Okay, so we can see this is when it's involved with the one country and this country. So of course it will involve with the what we call international relationship between one country to another country. So it's involved with the what we call the diplomacy, international relations, and then security, so on and so forth. Okay, so sometimes, sometimes it's bring escalating tensions. Sometimes it's bring difficult to negotiation. So this is the situation that what we call we're going to learn today's session. Okay, so let's situate in what we call geography. So here, this is the world map. Okay, we can see that this is the United States. Okay, because we have a lot of country in this world, but we are talking about the United States and the ASEAN countries. Here is our countries, Malaysia and Indonesia. So we can see how far United States and the ASEAN countries, particularly Malaysia and Indonesia, from here. Okay, it will take hours and 1,000 kilometers from here to here. But we have to know that we, Malaysia and Indonesia, we have a rich of resources. Okay, so that's why the United States will, need to import some products from our country, Indonesia and Malaysia. So this is how we can see geographically what we call situates between United States and ASEAN countries. Okay, so ASEAN countries. Okay, when we talk about ASEAN countries, okay, when we talk about ASEAN, what means by ASEAN? ASEAN is not only one countries, but it's involved with the 10 countries. Okay, ASEAN is the Association of Southeast ASEAN nations, where this ASEAN Association is established in 1967. Okay, so the relationship United States with the ASEAN started in 1977, which is 10 years after establishment of ASEAN. Okay, so it started with the US become an ASEAN dialogue partner in 1977. This is the what we call the days or the year that US has collaboration with ASEAN. Okay, so it becomes to become as a partner in 1977, and then after that. And then I conclude the milestones. Okay, milestone of collaboration ASEAN and United States. Okay, it started become actively in 2006, which is under ASEAN US Trade and Investment Framework Arrangement (TIFA), and then also 2009 the US acceded to Treaty of Amity and Cooperation (TAC). 2011 US joined the East Asia Summits. Okay, and then 2015 to 2016 they is involved with the Strategic Partnership and Sunderland's Declaration. Okay, in 2022 they also have what we call the collaboration between ASEAN and US strategic comprehensive strategic partnership. So in terms of platform, okay, the United States involved under with the annual leader summits, also in sectors, working groups, so on and so forth, and also the United States also involved with the plan of action 2021 to 2025 with the what we call practical cooperation pillars. And after that, we look at the most effective pillars that involve under US ASEAN collaboration. Okay, so this is the 4 pillars that US ASEAN collaboration area and instruments. Number 1, and of course we cannot deny that, of course, the why we have collaboration with the, because we know that the United States is the giant economic power. Okay, so of course we are small country. We have 10 members under ASEAN. Okay, so we need to collaborate and then have a good relationship with the US. Okay, in this, the four pillars or the area of involvement or collaboration, which is number one, is of course related to economy and trade, which is that is under TIFA, okay, which is a trade and investment framework agreement, work program, okay, that is, providing a supply chain resilience as well as digital trade. That is also reflect to the IPEF, which is Indo-Pacific, what we call that, this one, Indo-Pacific Economic framework that is under selected ASEAN members. And the second pillar is the connectivity and infrastructure. Okay, so this one is all will focus most on the energy transition. We have to know that among we are in ASEAN countries, we have enough of what we call the natural sources, which is solar. Okay, so we have a very high or very huge potential in producing solar. Okay, so this is one of the what we call the important areas that will have collaboration US and ASEAN collaboration, which is energy transition, where we can have the sustainable infrastructure like smart cities, partnerships, so on and so forth. The third pillar is the human capital, and we know that United States, of course, they will provide in terms of scholarship, education, as well as language programs. Okay, well, particularly focusing on science and technology. And the fourth one is, of course, we have to know because it's cross countries, it will reflect to the security and governance. Okay. It's reflect to the maritime security, disaster response, where earthquakes, for example, and then when disaster happen, and how this collaboration will help in terms of health security and support each other with the rule base or the. Okay, so we can see that the collaboration is not only about tariff itself, okay, but actually it's reflecting to the total ecosystem that cushion shock, okay, whether in economics, connectivity, human capital, as well as the security. Okay, now we move to the goods. Okay, good actually moving through this channel. Okay. We have to know that this is the major US-ASEAN trade flow. Like for example, US, Vietnam will always Vietnam has a has trade partner with the US. They are exporting their electronics, computer, phones that assemble or that produced in Vietnam. Okay, and then whereby the United uh, United States will export their machinery, aircraft parts, and agriculture to Vietnam. Where Malaysia export integrated circuit because Malaysia normally involve more, which we have much semiconductor devices, okay, electric and electronic, okay, to the United States, and United States more export to Malaysia capital good as well as industrial supplies. Okay, and then in Thailand, okay, in terms of electronics, auto parts, vehicle, rubber products, Thailand is more major in exporting electronic auto parts. Okay, so whereby the US export more machinery, energy, and agriculture. As for Singapore, we know that among the top country among ASEAN countries, they have a very high value electric and electronic chemicals. Okay, so they are more export to the US in terms of services, machinery. But whereby the US, they are export in terms of their machinery services, and this is we can see that they have a two-way balance in good close. Okay, so Indonesia major in exporting apparel, footwear, and rubber furnitures, okay, whereby the US export more soybean, machinery, and food. Okay, so the Philippines, they are majoring in exporting electronic semiconductors, and US export to the Philippines cereal, machinery, and chemical. Okay. Okay, so this is the we can see that in terms of value, we can see that how the largest US import from ASEAN country is Vietnam. Okay, so among the ASEAN countries, Vietnam is most largest US import. Okay, this one is data based on 2024, and among ASEAN countries, okay, Singapore is among top US export to ASEAN countries. So we can see that this is how important that each of the ASEAN countries has collaboration or has being a partner with the United States. Okay, so this is the I simplify what we call, I mentioned just now, leading export in the categories to the US based on country, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. And we can see that majority of ASEAN countries are exporting electronic, okay, electrics, okay, semiconductors, devices, so on and so forth. Okay, and so goes to Indonesia, Philippines, and Cambodia. Okay, like Indonesia and Cambodia are more focusing on apparel, footwear, rubber, and so on and so forth. Okay, so now we're moving on to the part of President Trump and ASEAN in terms of their diplomacy and touch point. Okay, so in this part we can see that that the President Trump has won presidential election for two terms, okay, two different terms, okay, 2017 until 2021, and second term is 2025, which is the current one. And we can see that the first term he has participated in Manila US ASEAN event 2017, and the US also have engagement there after 2019 delegation. And then 2019, the delegation has downgraded. Okay, and the second terms, which is the current one, he has introduced baseline 10% and higher reciprocal tariff for deficit partners that we can see indirectly is not on happen on ASEAN, but some others country for the rest of the world. So we take a look what happened to our ASEAN countries, and also the US also has asked senior visit and negotiation with ASEAN capitals, and then some have a discussion, negotiation, so on and so forth, because the tariff has been imposed for the second term very high, okay, and has a very hot issues that we know that started on the last April. Okay, so here is the chronology move Trump, okay, to the what we call, this is the we call the trade pledge 2006 until 2025. Okay, it started with the ASEAN US TIFA, which is signed with the platform. The trade dialogue has been done, and then after that, followed by 2018, the US section, they have 25% steel and 10% percent aluminum, which is global with some later exemption and quotas. Okay, so and after that in 2022, they have US comprehensive strategic partners and has been established and announced. And the current situation that we see that the collaboration between US and ASEAN, which is the US announced 10% baseline tariff, reciprocal formula proposed much higher rates. Because, we can see that basically the US president, they have, the first thing that he started to become a president, he focused on the tariff to increase the tariff for the some countries that involve has partnered with the US. And bilateral deal lower proposed rate for several ASEAN tariff that based on the negotiation discussion has been done along the way from April to August. Okay. Um, and then impact of the US on ASEAN in selected channel, we can see that number one is that is reflect to the price margin. Okay. Price margin that the tariff squeeze exporter margin or rise the US consumer price through pass through the differ by sectors. Okay, so this is happen because of the imposing the high tariff of US to the some partners or some major partners with the US. And then the second one is the trade diversion, which is this is the earlier US China tariff boosted some ASEAN exports, okay, and 2025 change partially reverse and reroute, which is in this situation because of what has been imposed by US at that time, and then all the ASEAN countries start to divert. I mean, they start to have a more active collaboration with the ASEAN countries like China. And then the third one is the FDI recalibration towards tariff resilient supply chain, which is they are more focusing on ROO compliance near shoring, and then they are focusing on the rule of origin compliance as well as uh, what we call near shoring to Mexico or US. And then in terms of macroeconomy, there is a expert growth deceleration and the sectoral slowdown because of this situation happened. They impose the high impose rate of tariff and then the sectoral slowdown as well as the exchange rate pressure happened due to that. And also it's reflect to the budgetary support measure. Okay, so normally because of the economic growth slow in exposed sectors, so government consider to support to cushion workers, especially in small mediums industry. Okay, so what are the US corporation priority at me? So we look. Okay, so this is the ASEAN collaborative focus. Particularly, with the US trade policy. Okay, so because of this situation, in terms of collaborative focus, they are more focused on supply chain and standard because we cannot deny that based on what we have discussing and I showed just now, major partner from the ASEAN countries, they are more export in terms of semiconductors and then some of critical mineral, digital trade norms as well as the service openness. Okay. And then the second one is SME integration and sustainability. Okay, so from that, ASEAN collaborative start to focus on the green transition, green finance, and green what we call green entrepreneurship, that they are focusing on micro, small, medium enterprise and export readiness. And that's export readiness or export capability. Okay, and the third focus is the is rule-based system, which is World Trade Organization consistent solution in terms of tariffs, transparency, dispute avoidance mechanism. Okay, so time-bound reviews and at this situation. So now we move to the what we call the 2025 tariff regime. Okay, ASEAN countries impacted by Trump presidential, we can see here. Okay, the first big example here is the Cambodia is one of the heavily affected, facing initial tariff rates high as 49% due to the concern over its trade surplus and potential transshipment of Chinese goods. After negotiation, the rate was adjusted to 36%. And for Laos and Myanmar, both countries received severe initial tariff of 48% and 44 respectively, later revised to 40%, whereby Vietnam faced a 46% tariff, which was later negotiated down to 20% in bilateral trade deal. And also we can see that Indonesia subject to a 32% tariff through analysts note that overall macroeconomic risks were limited due to a small proportion of its GDP ties US export. So we can see that this is we can see that this is the time that what we call domestic industry need to be enhanced, and then because of the what we call the high tariff have been imposed. Okay, and then okay, so this is what changed. We can see that this is example that I mentioned just now. Vietnam, after negotiation happened, okay, the percentage of tariff has been reduced to 20% for Vietnam, and then 19% Thailand, 19% for Thailand and Indonesia, and also the latest one, Malaysia, has been reduced to 19% of imposing tariff by US. Okay, so the immediate impact for 2025, we can see that this is we are taking about 4 countries of ASEAN, which is as in Vietnam. Okay, Vietnam, the US bound export dip, what we call and then World Bank trip 2025 in GDP outlook. Okay, so the firm has adjusting the sourcings, and then Thailand has support measure for affected sectors, aims to narrow US surplus and import more US goods. And the Philippines expressed concern pursuing a comprehensive bilateral economic agreement to mitigate tariff impact. And as a region, okay, ASEAN minister prefer dialogue over retaliation special summit proposed by Malaysia that currently happen in Malaysia. That is one of the what we call quick impact that due to the what we call trade regime by Trump. Okay, so the process is, the negotiation happen, which is a rapid bilateral talks, and then trade of include procurement related to energy, aircraft energy, and the regulatory relaxation as well as the market access play. And then we can see that the outcome of that, we can see Vietnam has decreased to 20%, Thailand 19%, and then Indonesia as well 20%. But in terms of enforcement, we can see that higher, for example, 40% revised on suspected transshipments or deter circumstantial that is still under negotiation. Okay, so the current ASEAN has taken action that Malaysia has chair for this diplomatic discussion, diplomatic track, convening a special ASEAN-US summit, okay, to unify messaging the predictable rule-based trade to especially to protect the ASEAN countries' domestic products, and then domestic support like targeted subsidies, providing soft loan, tax incentive for impacted sectors, for example, in Thailand. And also, there will be the export market diversification instead of export to the US. And then maybe ASEAN countries, we can, as we have channel to new diversification like China markets or other countries that have, to support this collaboration. And also compliance and ROO title origin verification, custom cooperation to address transshipment concern, because this one is also referred to these issues. Okay, as a result, to date, okay, and for Vietnam, the tariff has been moderated, and then we can see that short-term export growth volatility, and then there is a medium foreign direct investment resilient in electronic, because we have to know that, as we can see that majority in selected ASEAN countries, they are focusing on semiconductors, E&E. So that's why they have negotiation and then dialogue between ASEAN countries with the US. The tariff has been moderated. And same goes to Thailand. Okay, tariff reduction agreed and modest upgrade to 2025 growth forecast and import plans for US agriculture or energy. As for Indonesia, framework deal negotiation exemption for key commodities, okay, commitments like LCRS permits, and the Philippines engagement ongoing towards rate moderation, possible free trade agreements type framework will be the focus, okay. And then moving to the trade negotiation and peace, how we can see what we call the elements of peace embedded in this topic, trade and negotiation, because we have to know when it comes to the international relation or international studies, particularly in international economics trade, it will bring what we call the leaders to have a good negotiation between one country to another country. So of course, number one is the commercial interdependence. Okay, so high bilateral trade raise a opportunity cost of conflict and foster dialogue. For that, the foster dialogue, we can say that it means that the commercial peace. Okay, so normally a higher bilateral trade will bring more conflict. So how to protect, how to reduce this kind of conflict? It needs to have foster dialogue. It needs to have more dialogue and what we call collaboration and negotiation between one country to another country, that we call as commercial peace. And the second one is institution matters. Okay, the framework like TIFA, okay, trade investment framework agreement, and then the strategic partnership reduce uncertainty and facilitate de-escalation. That is important for to have like framework like TIFA and CSP, and also redesign the policy that is predictable, transparent tariff, and give out the essential inputs, time-bound review to minimize disruption. So this is how we can see how important, even though we can see at the beginning of April 2025, the rate of tariff has been imposed so high, and then by the end of the day, with the commercial peace, with the negotiation and dialogue, fostering dialogue between one country to another country will help to reduce the rate of tariffs. Okay, and then the future prospect. Okay, future prospect of this collaboration US and ASEAN. And we know that the baseline persistent 19 to 20% for selected ASEAN tariff has been imposed. Okay, it has a potential to reduce or step down if deficit metric improve. So this is the situation that need to be alert by the ASEAN countries. And then the strategic response deepen the US ASEAN supply chains partnership that invest in RO compliance production and leverage service export, and also not forgetting the risk factor, the global demand softness, further tariff escalation, as well as compliant enforcement and transshipment. Okay, so normally when the weaker global demand, so it will be enforcement tightening on transshipment. So especially it's focused on the sector specific escalation. So what balance do tariff strike with the prosperity and peace? Let's take a look here. Okay, so tariff can be blunt. Okay, they create short run pressure on uncertainty. Okay, yet with the transparency, time limit, and targeted give out, especially for the intermediaries like electric and electronic and autos, okay, they can manage without derailing development. So the what we call therefore diplomacy and international relations become so essential. So it's for in terms of in the short run pressure can be reduced because tariff can strain the livelihood and heighten the tension if brought to and apart. Okay, so it's bring impact is not only on the particularly economy but also in social society. And then peace supporting pathways. Okay, use tariff to catalyze transparent negotiation, technology transfer deal, and development friendly adjustment support. Okay, how to measure this one is by the track distribution impact. Okay, and then protect vulnerable workers to ensure dispute resolution channel remain open, because we have to know that the situation might bring another conflict from one country to another country. Okay, so why trade diplomacy better? Okay, so basically it's conflict can be mitigated. Okay, conflict mitigation by institutionalized dialogue lowers miscalculation risk and reduce escalation, because normally when we talk about tariff, you are always looking at the fact and figures numbers, but also we have cannot deny this kind of conflict happen between one country to another country, especially the bilateral countries, bilateral trades. Sorry. So, and the second one is efficiency and welfare. Okay, rules reduce uncertainty and transaction costs. Okay, and it's encourage investment and innovation. And also, we can see that the ASEAN centrality, a cohesive ASEAN voice, improve bargaining outcome and regional stability that we have right now, especially after we have, we have negotiation. All the ASEAN countries, all the leaders of the ASEAN countries agreed and together unite to have to bring a good voice to to have a good bring good collaboration with the US. Okay, to well now I come to the end of this presentation where I would like to recap. Okay, so tariff reshape ASEAN US trade, and we can see that 2025 tariff elevated but partly moderated by negotiation. Okay, and we know that what happened in the current situation, and there are some policy recommendations. Prioritize sectoral exemption for intermediate goods in electric, electronic, and autos, and it accelerates the RO compliance and digital custom to curb transshipment, and then expand the services and high value investment to offset the good tariff. Okay, in conclusion, okay, tariff are ultimately a political economic instrument. In design and diplomacy determine outcome. So this is very important that without diplomacy, without have a good dialogue between one country to another country, we cannot see that how this the result of having we can reduce the rate of tariff. And with discipline, negotiation, and ASEAN centrality, okay, the region can sustain growth while safeguarding peace. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation, Dr. Hafizah. And we have a question from participant already read in the Zoom chat, ma'am.
Okay, Bo. Moment, I will check. Uh, should I stop the presentation? Share?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Um, okay. All right. Okay. The question from Abdul. Do US on global trade partners threaten American industry, or do they create long-term instability in region like ASEAN? Okay. Okay. I would like to answer this is a very good questions. Okay. Thank you, Abdul. Okay. So this situation is that at first, whenever President of Trump has become a president and won the election, okay, what he has done is he want to increase the tariff, okay. So meaning that he believed that because he has the perspective that trade will be good if impose tariff because they can earn money, okay, because we know that tax tax is what we call that tax is source of income for the country, okay. So in this situation, US know that they are now start to compete with the giant economy like China, that the China is growing very fast. So this is how when he become a president, he can see that the quick that he can do is imposing high tariff. So that in this situation, he believed that when the US impose high tariff, so they will quickly get the what we call income or increase their what we call national income. So in this situation, they forget that the situation when the US increase high tariff, it will bring a very what we call that a very what we call burden to the country that need to carry the amount of tariff that they impose, like 48%, 46%, especially in the context of ASEAN countries. So in this case, when the US think that they can get a quick impact, and they don't realize that how we ASEAN countries can unite and have a good negotiation. So in this case, that's why we can see until August, July and August, the negotiation happened between ASEAN countries. We are talking about ASEAN countries. We can see from 48% of tariff has been reduced from 30, 36, 30, 20 until Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and also Malaysia has reached at 19% of tariff. So the US, they need to think, in the long term. So that's why we can see that in this case, okay, if this what we call want to stick with the high rate of tariff, so it will bring instability for the future of their economy. But then with the negotiation that we have, especially that the what we call the dialogue has been done from in Malaysia, that our Prime Minister has chair for the ASEAN summit, the latest one. So we can see that this is how the US need to have, to maintain the good relationship with ASEAN countries, because we ASEAN country, we have a lot of what we call the sources like EEE, semiconductors, so on and so forth. So this is, we can see that how important that the what we call the US need to maintain their long-term stability. So if they want to stick with the 40, 48, 50% of their tariff, it will bring instability in the future. But then we can see how, that's why I mentioned about the peace and prosperity here, which is the commercial peace, that the dialogue has been done, negotiation has been done. So we can see that the US, from the high rate of tariff, they reduce to the very minimum, because they believe that if they want to stay at that rate, the higher rates, it will bring instability for their future economy. Because we, as ASEAN, we are now, as I mentioned just now, we start to diversify. We want to export our goods and services, not only for US, but now we can see the demand is other country like China, so on and so forth. Okay, is it okay, Abdul? Now I'm moving on to the second questions. Can ASEAN economies turn US tariff into opportunity for regional integration, or they will suffer more from global disruption? Okay. What I want to highlight here is that the power of ASEAN countries, that we have negotiation and we have commercial peace. Okay, so we can see here. Okay, we can that's why we as an ASEAN countries, we take as opportunity that this is the opportunity for us, for ASEAN countries, to have negotiation. If we want to be yes country, yes country, we just accept whatever rate they have provided, the US provide. Okay, this is the big no to change of the rate of tariff, so that what happened to our ASEAN countries, we will suffer a lot. That's why I show just now the impact if we have to maintain with the high rate of tariff that imposed by the US. So that's why we come with together, we unite together as ASEAN countries. We have negotiation and discuss with the US, the representative of the US, and then how we can lower down the rate of tariff, and then it will, bring a good opportunity to ASEAN countries. Okay, so that is my question, answer to Kinan. Okay, Paulina. Are tariff primary economic tools, or they are political weapon, disguised or as economic policy? No, that is one of the instrument, correct, Paulina? Okay, because tariff is we when we learn economics, we know that we learn about first sector. There is consumer and producer. There is first sector, and then the third sector is involved with the government and financial markets in the country, and then the fourth sector is involved with the import and export. We have to be realistic, okay, that in the real world, we have to have trading. There is no country in this world that they have no trading. In fact, we know that, like for example, China, before 1978, the China was practicing closed economy. After that, 1978, they has opened the economy, meaning that they have trading with the rest of the world. So that tariff is primarily is a tariff is actually to protect the domestic producer. because we have to know if without protection of the with the tariff, okay, so what happened to the domestic producer if the country, easily to bring import a lot from abroad, so what happened to the local product, so local product will diminish. Okay, so this is the situation why the tariff is important, and also at the same time when the country has imposed the tariff, that is one of the source of income for the country and government. Okay, they are political weapon. That is come to the political economic point of view, because we have to know when involved with the trading, we involve the international trade. Okay, this situation we they must have the international relation. We have to know, that's why Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, we are small country as compared to China and United States or Russia. So that's why we have to unite. We have to have our consortium or association to help to have a good hand in hand to make sure that our countries, our small country, Indonesia, Malaysia, all five countries of the members of the ASEAN need to, to hold tightly, and then we have to, build our to have a very strong regional for ASEAN countries. So that's why we can see that that is not that is one of the what we call diplomacy. That one is one of the association that bring strong in terms of economic growth. Okay, Paulina, is there any more questions? I think only three questions, Novita.
Yeah, I guess no one else asking again, ma'am. Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for your answer. Before I close this event, for all participants, please open your camera. I will take a picture on the count of three for documentation. Okay, one, two, three. Okay, another one, one, two, three. Thank you for your keen cooperation. Finally, we come to the end of visiting lecture today. We would like to thank you for Dr. Hafizah for the wonderful information and sharing your knowledge. We hope this information will be beneficial for all participants. At least we hope to have more collaboration in the future with University Malaysia Perlis. The visiting lecture for today and here. We hope to see you soon. Thank you and have a nice
Okay.
day.